Good afternoon. My name is Matthew Banke, and I am an adult reference librarian at the Kokomo-Howard Public Library. And welcome to today's program, Genealogy Research with Find a Grave. Find a Grave was created by Jim Tipton of Salt Lake City, Utah in 1995 and rolled out as a commercial entity in 1998. The website began as an outlet for Jim's hobby of visiting celebrity graves, but over time has been used increasingly for genealogy. The site was sold to Ancestry.com in 2013. In 2017, the website went through a major overhaul to aid in part with the popularity of its mobile app for tablets and phones, which today comprises up to 30% of all site visits. At times, the website has come under scrutiny. Some of this has to do with the layout of the site, the numerous ads, the lack of quality control. In fact, the site should always be fact-checked and scrutinized against well-established genealogy sources. However, Find a Grave is the second most popular genealogy website in the world, with over 190 million memorials, according to its parent company, Ancestry. Everyone uses Find a Grave, and everybody complains about Find a Grave, so why not take the time to become a quality content creator and work towards making Find a Grave better for everyone? In part two, I'm going to go into greater detail about how to create records, how to upload photos, and identify and resolve issues in Find a Grave. But today, I want to give an overview of how to use the site. So here we are. We're on the landing page of findagrave.com. And the interface has changed in 2017. I think it looks a lot better than it used to. You don't have to click nearly as much as you used to get around the site. I like this landing page. There's always a cover photo of a cemetery. This one is in France, and it's just a nice looking layout. Here is the search bar. So this is the simplified version of the search bar. First, you can search by the ancestor's first, middle, and last name, the year that they were born and died. And if you don't know the exact year that they were born or died, you can augment that. You can also search by the location of their cemetery that they were buried in. There's also some advanced search options. So you can search by a unique memorial ID, and every memorial that is created on Find a Grave gets assigned a unique memorial ID. You can also search by a contributor. So if you create an account with Find a Grave, which is free, you will yourself be given a contributor ID, which will track all of the memorials that you create, all of the photos that you attach to a memorial. You can also search by a spouse, parent, or child of your decedent. This only works, though, if they're all linked together. I'll be talking about that more in my second part of my video, of my series. So you can also search for memorials, whether they are a famous person, whether they are sponsored. And what that means is actually sponsorship occurs. If you pay $5, you can sponsor a memorial. And what that will do is that will eradicate all of the ads. And it will also allow you to add more photos, I think up to 10 for a sponsored memorial. You can also search if a person is not buried in a cemetery, and if there's a cenotaph. And that's kind of an interesting concept that before I started walking cemeteries, getting into genealogy and Find a Grave, I did not know about. A cenotaph is basically a memorial marker that is placed in a cemetery for a person that is not buried in that cemetery. A lot of times they're there for people that have died in military conflicts, but not always. Like, for example, if someone was killed at World War II D-Day and they're buried in France, they're going to be buried in France, but they might also have a cenotaph with their family and their family graveyard in their hometown. So it's basically to represent someone who is not buried there. Another way that you can search is with a grave photo, or if the memorial does not have a grave photo, if it has GPS or does not have GPS, and then if flowers have been left on Find a Grave's website. So just a little bit more about this landing page. Down here on the bottom left, you're always going to be greeted by a celebrity who either was born on this day or who died on this day. So on this day, Dom DeLuise died in 2009. He was a famous actor, comedian, and I think he was a chef. He was a famous chef before there were a lot of famous chefs. So yeah, he's down here. And there's also a shortcut to where you can add a memorial, where you can upload a photo. You can transcribe photos, or you can send in requests for a headstone to be transcribed. And there's also the forums down here, which can be useful if you're trying to resolve issues in Find a Grave. All of these require that you create an account, which, like I said, is very easy to do and is free. Up here, so this is the default page that I'm at currently. If I go on the memorials page, I get some redundancies. I get the same search bar, and it's defaulting to the advanced search, and I can add a memorial like in the other space. These are recently added memorials, and you can also search interesting monuments and interesting epitaphs, which are actually quite interesting if you ever have some time and you just want to tool around on the site. You can also shortcut search to the famous memorials. So this is what the site was originally created for. You can search famous people a number of different ways. You can simply search by name. We got a little shortcut down here for some of the most popularly searched famous people. You can also search famous people by the location that they're buried in, and you can search by a claim to fame. So in addition to famous political leaders and famous playwrights and famous entertainers and business people like we got down here, you can also search humanitarians. You can search philanthropists, you can search inventors. And so the search by location is really interesting, especially if you want to get down to a specific geographic locale like Howard County, Indiana. Speaking of Howard County, Indiana, I want to show you how to do a cemetery search by county. You can also search by state or by country. But because I'm new to Howard County, Indiana, and I happen to be a genealogist, I've been spending a bit of time digging around this little section of Find a Grave. And so I happen to be a Find a Grave contributor, and you can be a Find a Grave contributor also. Really, all you need is a camera phone and a computer, or you can just download the app. And the way that I've been contributing to Find a Grave in my new geographic area has been by finding record gaps. And when I say finding record gaps, I happen to live near Albright Cemetery. And so I'm going to go ahead and click on Albright Cemetery. And if I scroll down here, I see that there are 61 photo requests. Now, photo requests are an interesting feature on Find a Grave. They work in a reciprocal manner. So I can send a request for a photo, and I can also fulfill requests for a photo. I have actually sent some photo requests for areas of the country that I might never get to. Like I have some ancestors that lived in Montana, for example. But I also really find it rewarding to go and walk graveyards, take photos, and then fulfill these requests. A lot of times people will send me comments thanking me, and it really gives me a nice feeling. So this is a really, really good way to get started with Find a Grave, and honestly, to get started with genealogy. And some of these, when people send in requests, sometimes they've already walked the grave and walk the cemetery, and they cannot find their ancestors' graves. And sometimes these will be requests that nobody can find because the gravestone has either fallen over or the tombstone has become too worn. But as you see on this list, a lot of them are more recent. Some of them are even in the 2000s. And so this is just a great way to get started with Find a Grave. Another way, if I'm going to just click back here, back on Albright Cemetery. So Albright Cemetery, here it is. It was also known as Union Cemetery. So that's something that's kind of useful on the cemetery landing pages. They will tell you other names that a cemetery has been known by. So if I'm looking in a book, a genealogy or local history book on Howard County, I might come across Union Cemetery, and I live a mile away from Albright Cemetery, and that wouldn't connect. But this is some good genealogical information that Find a Grave provides you. And in addition, I've got this shortcut. Once again, I can add memorials, upload headstone, transcribe photos. I already went over the photo request. I can search a few other ways. And here's the unique cemetery ID. Same with every memorial, every cemetery has a unique identifier. If I'm trying to find a cemetery, this is a really useful way of finding it. By clicking on Show Map, I can actually highlight and copy and paste the GPS coordinates and put them into Google Maps. So I just wanted to highlight that really quick. So if I go onto the memorials, I have a different way of showing how I can view a cemetery. So I can search by person within Albright Cemetery, but if I clicked where I clicked, I have all 8,000 records. By default, it shows it to me in A to Z, but I want to show a couple of other ways that I like to search cemeteries to get a better understanding of the cemetery's history and the kind of records that are needed. So if I search by date of death, older, I get the oldest inhabitants of this cemetery. In this case, this cemetery goes way back. According to this record, somebody was buried in 1802. There's one person in 1822, and then 1840s, 1850s, we get an uptake. So this is really an early cemetery for Howard County. And it's a very well-documented cemetery. As I scroll through here, a lot of the older photos all have photos. I'm sorry, a lot of the older graves all have photos. So I'm getting an understanding pretty quick of what this cemetery is like. Now, if I click and organize the records the opposite way, the newer death dates, I get another view of the cemetery and what it's like as far as its record gaps. There are a lot of newer memorials, as you see here. These are all in the month of April. And as you see underneath, all of them have no grave photos. This is another way that you can be of service. If you want to walk a cemetery where a memorial has been contributed, you can collaborate and you can take a photo and upload a grave photo. And some of the recently deceased are good candidates for volunteer work. As you see, here is an individual, and this memorial was created either by a family member, a friend, or simply a genealogist that lives in the area and is a volunteer and simply wanted to create memorials. Some people contribute to Find a Grave and they never leave their homes. They never actually walk cemeteries. And then other people can upload the photos of the gravestones. I do a little bit of both, but as you see on this record, more than likely they found this information on a funeral home website. ShirleyandStout.com is a local funeral home, and that's probably where they got the photo also. Other places that people get information are obituaries from local newspapers. And if it's a really old memorial, for somebody that might not even have a gravestone, sometimes people use old cemetery books. Cemetery books sometimes have been walked several generations ago, and they can be helpful in the creation of memorials. But there are a number of sources that people can consult and that they can add. In addition to photos, also death certificates and obituaries can be added. So here's a unique memorial. Let me show you one of my ancestors, and I'm going to give a little bit of a demonstration on some more different types of searching that can be done with Find a Grave. So I'm going to search a specific ancestor of mine that is intriguing to me and is a little bit of a brick wall, and to talk about some of the little bit more creative ways that I can use Ancestry.com. So this is my ancestor here. His name's Paul Strigel. Now, Paul Strigel, he came to the United States from Baden, Germany in 1848. It was a big political movement that was going on, and a lot of German people got out of the country at that time. When he came to the United States, his name was spelled Strigel, Striegel, and he anglicized the spelling of his name to Striggle. And he came to Whitley County in the early 1850s after first being in Pennsylvania, Ohio, then southern Indiana. He was in Wayne County. Then he was in Wabash County with his wife, Mary Faye Geist here. I've contributed some of the images to this Find a Grave record. I contributed the photo that I received from family. I have another photo down here. It was taken at the funeral of his wife, Mary Faye, and it features all 6 of his children. I also took the photo of this grave memorial, and I linked together all of his children and his spouse. And I found this to be really useful to give me sort of a one-stop shop where I can use him as a reference point and do research on other family members. And I've also added obituaries to some of his family members. Like here's Frederick. I found his obituary at the Whitley County Library, the South Whitley Library. In addition to simply landing on an individual's record and finding out some biographical information, some other ways to search are within a cemetery. So within South Whitley Cemetery, I have done a number of searches for not only the Strigels, but some of the other surnames that are related. So if I just typed in Strigel, I got 28 matches in South Whitley Cemetery. And like I said, he was the first of his line. He was my 3rd great-grandfather. And I've researched, and all 28 of these individuals are direct descendants of his, and they're all my relations. As I scroll through, this is also kind of good because it gives me an idea of some of the record gaps, some of the photos that have not been uploaded yet to Find a Grave. I've walked this cemetery. It's pretty good size, but it's not enormous. Give me some time and I could probably find all of these people that are missing. Because I've mentioned that I'm at a little bit of a brick wall with finding out more information about Paul and his family. I happen to know that his wife was from Bitz, Germany, but I don't know if they had any other family members that came over at the same time as them. There's a lot of question marks. So I'm going to try doing a couple of other searches with my grandfather's surname, and let's see if I can get any other results. So if I search Strigel and I search all of the state of Indiana, I'm just curious, how many am I going to get? I had 28. Now I have 37, and I've researched all of these people, and I happen to know the ones that are outliers, the ones that left Whitley County. I am related to them as well, and I've done some additional research on them. But like I said, I'm getting a little bit creative because this is a brick wall, and I'm curious about other Strigels that came over at the same time. Do I have any other relatives from Baden, Germany? Well, one way that I can search, I mentioned before how my family's name has changed its spelling. If I use a wildcard, which is an asterisk, you can also use a question mark in Find a Grave. I can cover variant spellings. And there are other Strigels out there that have retained their German spelling. So I wanted to see if I could cast a wider net and try to turn over every stone. So if I use the wild cards, I find that I actually get some interesting and unexpected results. So now I have 315 results, and this covers the whole state of Indiana. I've actually done this type of searching with Ohio and Pennsylvania as well, because like I said, I'm just looking for clues. I'm looking for information about other relatives, what's called cluster research. So as I scroll through this listing, I happen to get a lot of results in southern Indiana, where I actually used to live, and actually by searching a local cemetery, that's where I found out that there were so many Strigels that retained the German spelling of my name. Now, 315 results might sound like a lot, but when you're doing kind of brick wall research, you kind of need to, like I said, a wider net, and you need to think a little bit differently about your search results. I've actually found a local history book while I was in Jasper, and it was another Strigel, and they were from Baden, Germany. I couldn't really find too much that really connected them. They were pretty far away from bits, so it really helps to know when you're doing this type of research to definitely have some pieces that are already in place. But I found out some interesting things as I did this type of search. Okay, here's an interesting person. So I have so many of these Strigels that have the old spelling of their name. But here's a Strigel with the old spelling of their name, and they're actually buried right on the county edge of Allen County, right near Whitley County. And they happen to be buried at the same cemetery that my grandmother is buried at. And I found this record from searching this way. I didn't find it initially when I was just knocking around that cemetery and adding to my grandmother's records. This is her married name, so I would need to do a little bit more digging. But this was kind of an interesting little tidbit of information that I found by searching this way. Also, by searching this way, as I get to the end of the list, I get back to the anglicized spelling of my name. So I'm at the very edge of the Strigels, and I end up with some additional spellings of my name. I get the Strigel without the E, so Strigel. So these were all Southern Indiana people as well, and they're not people that are exactly on my radar. But then I get back to my original list, and I get all the Strigels that are in Indiana with my original spelling. Additionally, as I get to the end of the list, I get another spelling that I wasn't looking for, another variant spelling, Strigel without the E, without either E's. And then I only know this because I've poked around and been doing genealogy research with surnames. Another variant of Strigel is Strigler. So I just wanted to demonstrate this kind of wider use of Find a Grave and kind of a little bit research methods demonstration. And I just wanted to show there's some ways that you can kind of stretch and you can research in a kind of a different way to kind of think a little bit more broadly about if you're at a brick wall. But I hope this program has been helpful, and I hope you'll join me again next month as I go a little bit more in depth and I demonstrate how to create memorials, how to upload images, and how to do more with Find a Grave as a content contributor. So I hope this has been helpful. Thank you and have a great day.